Ever get that feeling like when you say something, it's like, whoa, those words just kind of had extra weight to them.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to deep dive into that, like why that happens.
Yeah.
Way deeper than you'd think.
Yeah, this would be good.
You guys sent in this sermon transcript all about the power of words, but like on a whole other level.
It's wild, right? This whole idea that words don't just like describe what's real, they actually shape it. You see that everywhere through history, across cultures. I mean, ancient proverbs or even today, think about how much people are into manifesting.
Oh, totally. So this sermon, it goes right to the Bible for examples. Like day one, right? Genesis, God says, let there be light, and bam, there it is.
Right.
Like ultimate proof words can make stuff happen.
And what's so cool is how this sermon takes those stories. You know, some folks might think they're just for religious people, but the sermon's like, nope, there's a principle here for everybody.
Okay, so example. What's one of those principles that really hit you?
Well, there's Proverbs 18.21, and it straight up says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Now, I don't care if you studied the Bible your whole life or this is brand new to you, that's an intense image, right? Like, our words have that much influence over our lives.
Okay, yeah, if our words are that powerful, how do we use them well? That's the big question.
And that's where this sermon, it gets really cool because it's not just about being nice, you know, it's about...
It's about intention, right? Like, what are we actually trying to do with our words?
Exactly. The sermon, it uses this idea of a fire, like a tiny spark seems like nothing, right? But if it lands in the right place, boom, whole forest burns down. So it's saying even our small words, the stuff we say without thinking, those little comments, those have consequences too.
Okay, now that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But then if you flip it around, does that mean the good stuff, the positive words, they have that much potential too?
Exactly. And the sermon, it talks about how that's where stuff like prayer comes in, you know, surrounding yourself with good people, positive influences. But here's the thing, even if you're not a religious person, those ideas, they have versions outside of religion too.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this. Okay, so like instead of prayer, it's about what, like being really conscious of what you're thinking, manifesting, but like for real.
Yeah. And instead of just like positive influences, think about who you're hanging out with, what you're reading, even what you're listening to. All that stuff, it's like it's talking to you, you know, shaping how you talk to yourself inside your head.
So it's like guarding your tongue, but for your mind too.
Yeah.
Okay, this is making me think about how much I complain, not even to other people, just to myself, you know?
And that is exactly the self-awareness this sermon is going for. Because if, like we were saying before, words have this power to actually change things, then all that negative self-talk, those pity parties we throw ourselves, those are actually dangerous.
So no more I can't ever again. That's kind of intense.
Well, it's not like you got to be all sunshine and rainbows all the time, right? The sermon isn't saying that. It's more about knowing the difference between saying, hey, this is tough right now, and letting your words trap you in that tough place.
Which reminds me, there was this whole part about silence being powerful too, which I feel like people don't talk about enough.
Oh, absolutely. The sermon's big on that. Sometimes not saying anything is the most powerful thing you can do. It's like that saying, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
So you should listen twice as much as you speak.
Great. I get it. Okay, this is all great. But how do we actually, like, do this, put it into practice in our lives? It feels kind of overwhelming.
Well, the sermon does give some steps, for example. Okay, so the sermon, it says to like, take some time, think about it, maybe even write down what you want to use your words for, which makes sense, right? Like almost like a plan for speaking with more purpose.
Yeah, it's about taking that mindfulness, like you were saying, and actually living it every day. Just like, you know how people make a plan to eat healthier, work out more, that kind of thing. The sermon's saying we can do the same with the words we use.
So it's not some big dramatic thing. It's those small choices we make each day. They all kind of add up.
Exactly. And I think that's what's kind of cool, but maybe
Yeah.
a little scary too, is that this whole idea, it puts it all on us, you know? Like we're not just listening to words all day, we're actually creating with them. Every word we say, write down, even just think.
Okay, now that is a thought to end on.
Yeah.
So it's not about being nice or whatever. It's realizing that our words are literally building the world around us, little by little.
And if you really believe that, I mean, if you let it sink in deep, how would it change not just what you say, but how you, like, live your life?
There you go. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm walking away from this deep dive thinking about my words totally differently.
Me too. And honestly, that might be the first step, right? Just that awareness. Because once you start noticing the power of words, you can't really unnotice it.
So true. And to everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What really hit home from this deep dive, hit us up on social media. Let's keep talking about this, because this is one deep dive worth talking about.